down from 3. If I had to count down any further from that, I would just get the whole thing jumbled up. I don't know. Sorry, Thomas, you seem tired.
He's gonna fall asleep on us.
This has been the world's shittiest week.
Oh wow! So you should have a lot to talk about too, man. This is going to be a jam-packed show. I don't know how we're going to fit all this in.
It's been shitty in ways that are not interesting.
Ah, okay. Right. Well, you're listening to PHP Ugly, episode 127.
Hold on. I can hear John's vibrator.
I don't know. Who is that? Was that you, John?
Yeah. I need a little pleasure before. A little pleasure before the episode.
A little stimulation before things get started.
Oh,
it's slowing down. It's dying.
You can hear dying. You've used it that much.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Okay, can we get started now?
Why is my blood pressure showing so high? Hi. All right, go.
We were making you laugh while you were checking your blood pressure. It kind of screws things up.
Just knowing John checks his blood pressure every time we engage is just a little disturbing. I don't know.
You're trying for a relapse, so no. All right.
You're listening to PHP Ugly, the premier PHP podcast in Southern California in Colorado, recorded Thursdays nights. This is episode 127, and I am your host, Eric Van Johnson. With me today, as usual, this normal motley crew of overworked and underappreciated developers. Tom Rideout.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
Good job, Tom.
You hit it on the head.
And John Congdon.
Hello. Another night.
And man, what a busy week it's been. We have so much to talk about. And I don't even know where to start. Actually, I do know where to start. Thanks to some suggestions. First thing, let me say this right off the bat. And I feel like I've said this the last couple of episodes, but ever since enabling Discord, man, has it changed my approach and appreciation for the listeners of our show. And the exchange of knowledge has been fantastic. So I actually have 3 things today that all came to me through Discord. I don't know who had suggested it or who had mentioned it early on, but somebody, like right when we first started doing Discord, somebody had mentioned how hard we were to find on Spotify. And at the time, I'm like, I don't use Spotify. I'll look into it. I've been meaning to look into it, and I just hadn't. So I did do that today. I actually stumbled into that for a whole nother reason. If we have time, I'll explain it. But I did go into Spotify today. I did configure PHP Ugly as a podcast stream in Spotify. So if you are a Spotify user, we should be easier to find, follow, and subscribe to in Spotify now. That was the first thing. Also, one of our Discord people, and I really want to say the name, and I know I'm going to butcher it. Bassam, Bostjan. He actually gave us a couple of suggestions this week that we have some experience with.
You're not allowed to say that name because this person thought you were the boss for some reason, and clearly they're mistaken and they don't know how to communicate properly. So
John,
just strike them from.
John, let me finish talking.
Altogether right now.
I'm the boss here. Bassam has deemed me the boss, and I'm in charge.
Hasn't deemed you. Thought incorrectly.
He has deemed me the boss. And I believe we were all called boss at one point or another in one of the channels. So, but we were talking about toggle in tracking time and stuff, and he mentioned another service called Timemuller. Yeah. And so told him, I'm like, I actually signed up for Timler. Timler was pretty cool. Thomas, you might appreciate this. I don't know. Do you track your time, Thomas?
You're just jumping into all the stories right now versus spreading them out and talking about them.
We have so much to get through. I am spreading it out. Trust me.
I do not track my time.
You don't track your time?
Never. Well, until recently, when somebody suggested Stand Up Alice to my boss, I did no time tracking whatsoever. Now I do a little bit of time tracking in the morning because, again, somebody suggested that I do to my boss.
So you may recall a couple of shows back. I was talking. I will use Toggle occasionally. I don't need to track my time because I'm one of the guys who actually pay the bills, but I will track my time occasionally just to get an understanding of where I'm spending my time. Because I'll feel like I'm spending so much of my day in meetings, but I don't have any collaborating evidence for that. And one of my gripes with Toggle is I'm always switching from task to task to task so quickly. And occasionally I feel like I'm working on a couple tasks at a time, which this doesn't address. But I'm constantly switching between tasks so quickly that Toggle was a pain in my butt, right? To have to go in there and figure it out. So this Timular application was suggested to us. It tied into Toggle. I'm not really sure how that integration works yet, but the cool thing about this is it has a physical die, like a Dungeons and Dragon die, one of these multi-sided die, and you configure different tasks, like in a meeting, on a phone call, working on this task, coding, blah blah blah, on all these different sides of this die, and then you just turn the die on whatever you're working on, and all this time tracking happens automatically.
Yeah, I think it was 8-sided, so you can have up to 8 different tasks that you're switching between quickly.
What a nightmare!
Why is that a nightmare?
It sounds so simultaneous tasks.
No. You switch. You like, I'm answering my email right now. All right, now somebody's calling me. I'm going into a meeting. Instead of having to find the application, you just turn the thing, and now you're tracking a new task that you're working on.
So I ordered one. I don't have it. I won't have it. Won't have it for a couple weeks.
What's this thing called?
Timular. Timular. So
don't go giving free promotion, free
advertising. You're right.
People.
You're so right.
We need a discount code that we can give out.
We need an affiliate link. We need affiliate links for everything moving forward. I talked about some stuff I bought off of Amazon the other day, and I'm like, we need affiliate links.
It's got little pictures.
Yeah, it looked like it was a Kickstarter at one point.
And you can write on some sides of it. Yeah, it looks interesting.
It has a monthly fee.
Well, yeah. So
you don't have to. You don't have to do the monthly fee.
Right.
That's if you want the integrations into other services and a couple other things.
Yeah. Which we pay for Toggle for our developers already, so we're kind of used to that. But to John's point, you don't actually have to pay for it.
Again,
you have to buy the die. I mean, that's a physical thing. You have to buy that if you want to use that. But
yeah, no, it's cute.
Yeah,
you bought a toy.
Yeah, he's good at that.
As John likes to point out, I'm a very bad yin or yang. Am I yang or yin?
Yang.
I'm a bad yang. Very bad yang.
My wife dubbed him that years ago.
That's highly appropriate.
Definitely.
So that same user helped address another pain point, which I shared with John today, and then I think John has some feedback on that as well. but we were talking about using SQL Pro. And honestly, this is my life now. Between talking on the show to you guys about things we cover and now having interaction with people in our Discord, I don't remember if this is a conversation that originated on the show or originated in Discord, but at some point we started talking about the tools we were using for databases.
Only there was a Trello board for that.
Was there?
He's being a smart ass saying you if you'd added it to the Trello board, you would know this.
Oh, okay.
You know where it originated at.
But a lot of, if you're a Mac user and you use MySQL, a lot of people were talking about how they use SQL Pro, and a few people mentioned how they were moving over to Table Plus, which is another kind of cool MySQL management tool that we came upon. I use Table Plus because we have some Postgres out there, and Table Plus actually does Postgres, Reddit, MySQL, Microsoft SQL. There were a couple others that it did, whereas SQL Pro only does MySQL. So I went ahead and Table Plus was a paid product. SQL Pro is a free product. So I went ahead and invested in Table Plus. I should say Table Plus is a paid product to get the updates. You can actually get the software and use it. You just won't get any updates. So that was kind of a common thing. And one of the gripes about SQL Pro was that it never gets updated. And it became a problem for users who have upgraded their Mojave. And being a Mac-centric application, I'm surprised that they didn't actually push out updates for Mojave, because there was plenty of runway to it, plenty of developer talk about it, but they didn't. And so as a result, not only does the theme not match the new dark theme of Mojave, which is not really that big of a deal, but every time you go to close the app actually crashes. You can't close it. It crashes out.
Even if you close one connection, I often have multiple connections open. If you close one of them, the rest of them all crash too.
Closes is closes. That's fine.
But I don't want them all closed. I wanted one closed.
Right. That's what John's saying. He has multiple tabs open. Right?
I'll leave it open overnight, so a connection will die to a remote database server, and I just want to access my local Docker MySQL container, and that crashes because the other one closed.
I still don't understand these GUI SQL clients. It's
really.
I used to be like you, command line all the time. Like that's all I used because everything was remote. But once I started using SQL Pro, I really changed my mind on them.
Yeah, I love them. But the same user who had recommended Timular also brought to my attention, hey, SQL Pro has a GitHub repo, a public GitHub repo, and they also do nightly builds. So you can download a nightly build and get a lot of updates that, for whatever reason, they don't deploy to releases. And I was mentioning this to John today because I had done this. I'd gone to the nightly builds, downloaded it, installed it, ran it, and it worked fantastic for me. I didn't use it that heavily today, but it had the Mojave theme to it. I closed it; it didn't crash. I clicked around; everything seemed all right. But
I found a bug already.
So what bug did you find?
The view. So I use keyboard shortcuts to do windows like full screen, half screen, quarter screen, whatever. If it's full screen and then I do the shortcut and make it half screen, I couldn't scroll back to the top of the view. It just like got stuck.
So did you fix it and push a PR?
Of course not.
But it was weird because I was telling John, it's like you see where they're merging things into master, but they're not doing releases for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal is. I think I think the entire time I've used SQL Pro, which has probably been about 2 to 3 years now, I think I've gotten maybe 2 updates from them.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right.
So I don't know what it is, because there's clearly work being done on it, and work that is making it into the master branch. They just
their release manager quit 2 years ago. They don't know how to do releases. They're like, oh, we can get it in a master. We're good. People will figure it out.
Well, that or their continuous integration has just been failing for years and no one noticed.
There you go.
So yeah, I guess I got to add all these links to Toggle for the show notes. Show notes came through for us a couple weeks back. TJ Miller was asking about he was asking about the magnetic charge thing I was just talking about from Amazon. He's like, hey, what is that called and where do you get it at? I'm like, I don't know, man, go to the show notes. And he goes, oh yeah, that's right.
That's lazy. Lazy on your part.
It is.
Share your information.
Things are called. All right.
So
like I said, I have a ton of topics. You guys won't dive in. You might want to go ahead and start talking. Otherwise, I will dominate the show.
You're going to do that anyways.
Yeah.
Super duper new court ruling. Passcodes for phones are protected by the Fifth Amendment.
Okay,
that seemed pretty random, but all right, great.
It's long been fought over. The Florida Court of Appeals has stated clearly that information in your head belongs to you and is not necessarily a foregone conclusion, and therefore cannot be forcefully taken. So, at least for now, in Florida, you can't be forced to hand over your passcode for your phone.
You couldn't be forced anyway. It's in your head. They can't take it from you.
They could keep you in jail until you give it to them.
Whatever.
Stupid. It is. That's
why. But if you have fingerprint unlock or anything else, they can use that because it's not in your head, from what I understand. So if you want to do anything, you need to turn your phone off right away so that when it starts back up, it requires a passcode. If that's true or not, I don't know. I don't know if they can force you to touch the sensor.
Well, it's not force. The right word is compel. So they can't force you, but your other option is to sleep in jail until you do.
Well, then they can compel you with the passcode too. So there's no difference there.
So yeah, they can't compel you anymore with passcodes.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I don't know. I saw an opening and took it. Eric just said, if you have anything, get it out now. So
well, then I want to talk about our new client, because this story is absolutely fascinating to me. Eric spilled the beans earlier on Twitter, if anyone follows him. But
yeah, and he told me to lie about it for the podcast too.
Yeah, you should do that.
Everybody's throwing me under the bus.
Make sure you lie about it.
What did he say on Twitter?
So we have a new client we signed last week, and the way they described their previous developer just dumbfounded us. Basically, they hire somebody to do a bunch of work.
2'11", green skin, enormous ears.
Exactly, spot on. I said dumbfounded us, and he's being silly.
That's my only job here.
Anyway, so they tell us this developer created what they wanted. Yes, there's some things to be done, but they had working code. And then the developer said, oh, I really like your business. I want a percentage of it. Even though he was paid for the work. Demanded a percentage of the company.
They didn't give us an impression like they were friends with this person or they knew this person or anything like that. Just, this was a developer that they had hired to build out their product, and yeah.
And then went rogue with this demand. So they finally got rid of him. I'm assuming it's him. I really don't know. I'm bad assumption on my part. They got rid of this developer, and then to make sure that they were locked out, moved or changed IP addresses on the two physical servers that they have. And then they contact us through a referral where the hosting referred them to us, which was amazing. So thank you very much, TradeWeb.
You got a Tiger Team job and you didn't tell me?
A Tiger Team job? What are you talking about?
When you have to shut out a person with escalated privileges?
No, that was already done when we came on board. We weren't part of that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, but their application just stopped working at this point. And recently we found out this was October 12th, and this becomes very important coming up. So Eric and I, we finally got the contract in place. We start looking at the code and listening to what they're saying. Like the platform just doesn't work. So we end up finding like 2 or 3 different places where they hard-coded IP addresses, and by changing them on the server, everything broke. No big deal. We finally figured out their free switch server, so we restart free switch and have them test, and the calls work. Perfect. The next day, they decided to put some live traffic through it, and they're like, yeah, now we're seeing a post-dial delay anywhere from like 35 to 40 seconds. And then because we're
perfectly normal.
Yeah. So you dial the phone, you wait 40 seconds before it even starts ringing. I'm like, okay, there's so many pieces here, and we don't know where everything is at this point. We literally have been working on it for a day. So I look in Apache, and they didn't add the time of the request to the log. So I update the configuration, restart, and I say, can you please put some more traffic through so we can see? Because I'm still not sure. Is it free switch? Is it Apache with the code written behind it? Is it networking? Like, where is this delay coming from? Sure as shit, they do some calls today, and it's PHP. Or it's in the Apache log shows a 40-second time of request.
So it's taking 40 seconds to draw the page, or to
respond. It's responding with XML. We did know this much.
Okay.
So now Eric and I are talking. It's like, this guy must have written some horrible queries, or he's doing something really stupid. Like this, it's a decision engine. Given 2 phone numbers, what am I going to do? I need to make a decision. Why would it take?
Sounds like an indecision engine.
Well, it's also supposed to look back at like previous calls. I don't know all the details of it. I just know it's looking at statistics of the calls previously. So as far as we know, it's doing massive queries on massive data. So maybe it's just bad indexes.
And we were fortunate because our first analysis of the code base, like when we first engaged the client, we discovered it's a Laravel 5.6 application. It's running on PHP 7.0 or 7.1.
No, I think you're right, 7.1.
So we were actually really pleased. We're like, well, wow, this shouldn't be that big of a problem. Everything is very current.
Yeah, clearly
so
you
we
don't
knew
listen to
that
the podcast.
there was something there was something off. Like there's and like John said, we were just kind of going down the road of, okay, he has a loop somewhere that it's just doing something kooky.
Or just bad database schema, because we hadn't gotten into that part yet. And the endpoint that was taking 40 seconds is really small. The controller's all it's doing is a select out of MySQL with a stored procedure. I'm like, there's something in here, the stored procedure. So we start looking, and one, it's just a horrible if-else mess, nested if-elses. But then we happen to notice, like, there's a sleep in here. Why does this say do sleep?
There's a sleep in the source procedure.
Because it needs a moment to consider its decision, So
yeah.
Take a nap, wake up, and see if you still feel the same.
So, but at this point, we still don't know what it's doing. Like, is there something that, like, it's got to wait for data? Like, maybe there's a legitimate reason this is in here, and I'm terrified to touch the code because I don't want to break it. But we start analyzing it even further. The previous 3 queries before this, select current timestamp, select current timestamp minus a very specific number. I'm like, this is an epoch. Like, this is a time somewhere. October 12th, 8 a.m. So now we know
when they moved the server.
Well, so at some point, while this person still had access to the code, so around this time, yes. So now they know the number of seconds since October 12th. Then they divide it by 43,200, and luckily I just happen to know that's half a day. It's 12 hours. I'm like, okay, so now they're dividing this by 12 hours. Now they're sleeping that many seconds.
Right.
So every 12 hours, the query was taking a second longer.
So the application was getting slower and slower and slower over time.
But they didn't notice it because they moved IP addresses and everything just broke anyway. But there would have been this slow progression. It's been, I guess, 18, 19 days since the 12th. Multiply that by 2, so we're at roughly 40 seconds of sleeping. It's like, what is wrong with developers? That's
got to be super illegal.
It's got to be. It's got to be a criminal offense.
It has to be like extortion or something like that.
And this is what we were talking about this morning. It's like the best case scenario they could probably do, not knowing where this developer is in the world. So you don't really know the legitimacy of this developer in general. They could be anywhere, and they could, first thing I said to the team, because we had a little crepe morning where the DiegoDev gets together and we have coffee and crepes and talk about the projects we're working on. The first thing I said is, this was pretty well hidden. This is not the first time this person's done this, and probably won't be the last time they had done this. But to the point of what can the company do, really, you think about the best case scenario they can do is go to the authorities, hope the authorities launch an investigation and find other people that they've done this to, where they can build up enough of a case to prosecute. But that's asking for a lot. I mean,
I don't know. The FBI doesn't fuck around with cyber crimes.
I'm not even sure the FBI would even care about this.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, it's the tampering with computer systems, especially computer systems that process money, is federal crime. That goes straight to the FBI.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's going to be hard. Yeah, you definitely would have to build up a case, because
I brought up the point that if this was really the only system that it's ever been done to by this person, then it could just be a he said, she said type of situation. Where it's like, no, I didn't do that. And how do you prove? Because one, there's no repository. There's no
version control.
No version control. There's only production.
Only production servers.
Oh my god.
Shared account. Everybody uses the same account.
Yeah.
All right.
Other than the people that are running it are not technical at all. And it would be them saying, no, you're the only person that had access to the server.
Yeah.
But again, it's a he said, she said type of situation.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
What I found a little comical, it just goes to show who we are. But as we're talking about this with the team, because John and I literally discovered it this morning, we're sitting with the team and we're working on this, and we share it as soon as we figure it out. And pretty much everybody there is so offended that a developer would do this, and so taken back by the behavior, and like just kind of tearing it, just like, how dare a developer actually do this? And
gives us all a bad name.
Yeah, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, yeah, that does suck, and there's something needs to be done about it. But what we've had happen to us personally more often was the other way around, where a client has asked us to do work and then decided not to pay us, or has asked us to do work and says, "Oh yeah, that you're not doing it right."
Yeah, that's the status quo, though.
Exactly.
What are
that's
you
the
complaining
thing.
about?
It's like that. Oh yeah, but that happens all the time. I'm like, yeah, but that's just as bad.
Yeah, no, there's and my issue with that part of the status quo is that the implication that companies are more important because they employ people, whereas individuals are more disposable. And yeah, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's true that companies employ people, but companies are not more valuable than people.
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean, the team was talking about, holding a client hostage or extortion. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. But we had a client once that decided not to pay us, decided they want us to come back to work for them, acknowledged that they had an outstanding bill, and said, okay, we'll pay half of our outstanding bill if you come back and do some work for us.
Yeah, and you said, like, great, that'll cover the legal fees.
I told John, I'm like, you're nuts if you think we're going back. That was like it was the funniest email to ever get. It's like they bailed on us. They had this bill.
It was their assistant emailing us. We're assuming that the person that originally hired us really had her send the email.
That's true. That assumption was being made. It's like, yeah, we'll pay you half of what we owe you if you come back and work for us. What?
Like,
in what world does that make sense to you?
How about you pay us in full what you owe us and pay us ahead of time?
Yeah,
then we'll do.
That's our new rule. So this brings up this takes us down another path. I don't know how much we want to get into it on this show because we do have a lot of content to cover.
Not at all.
In Discord, you don't want to get into this at all?
I'd love a full episode about it.
I mean, so many people in Discord are asking us about our business model.
Yeah.
And how we go about charging clients and the different business models out there and the pros and cons. And like I was about to say before I led into this is, our business model is a little different than a lot in the sense that we charge clients after the fact. We don't charge them ahead of time unless we run into situations where we've had problems with them paying the bill. Once they get caught up, then they have to give us a deposit ahead of time. But if you don't want to get into that this show, that's fine. I was actually not going to talk about it because I have trouble actually truly expressing the DiegoDev business model. I was going to let John kind of talk about it, but
yeah, that's why John's the boss.
Nope, not the boss.
You guys need to cut that out. You're triggering me right now. You have no idea.
And I'm bringing you back to reality. I'm not.
We have a client that whenever they want to send me over the edge, they tell me, "Okay, you know what? Maybe we should talk to John about this." I'm like, you don't need to talk to John. John doesn't do anything for this company that I can't do.
I mean, he's
funny though.
He is the face. Or John, he looked much better than us.
John will be on a meeting with us, and they're explaining something, and the CEO of this other company will say, "John, you understand, right?" I'm like, "What the fuck? What the fuck does that mean?" "John, you understand. I understand." Okay, all right.
Usually come from me to back them up. I think that's what it really is.
Okay, so you wanna skip that topic, Thomas?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the topic roughly breaks down into there's a couple different models for billing for freelance work. There's a lot of documentation online about freelance models and sample contracts and how to do it. I'm in no way associated with freelance work. I have no input on it outside of a book I read in '98.
Sorry, Thomas, I had
No,
to.
that's all right. I'll just go grab another beer and watch.
No, we won't. We'll save it for another episode. Maybe we'll save it for more of a how we run our business sort of episode, or maybe that'll just be another show or something.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a week full of news too. Like stuff that's relevance will fade with time.
So all the people in Discord who've been asking us to talk about this,
Thomas said,
send Thomas some hate mail there. He's the one that shot this one down.
Yes, you can send the hate mail to patreon.com/phpugly.
We will circle back around on it in some future episode. We did flex our community muscle in our Discord. Again, Discord is really, really coming along. How many people do we have in our Discord now? Have we hit 50?
No.
38, 8, and 3. What is that?
A lot of duplicates. A lot of people signed up, and for some reason they've got 2 names.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. So yeah. So probably about, but we've got a good amount of people in our Discord, and we started talking about, which is weird. We started talking about it in the coding channel. I don't know how the conversation ended up in the coding channel, but we started talking about John and I's other gig of doing the PHP Architect podcast, and some conversation came up around the PHP Architect magazine, which is a great resource, but it's one you have to pay for, and you have to pay actually a substantial enough money to get physical copies of it. And we were talking about, okay, well, what do you think would make it more beneficial? And some of the benefits that people were kind of saying about the magazine is they appreciated having a curated news source of information. Like, yeah, a lot of this information is available on blogs, but it's not really curated. It's not edited. And, it's just kind of there. And it's like, okay, well, you take it for its word, and you stumble around and find this stuff. So there was some, things about that. But my question was, for the people who weren't subscribed, I'm like, what would make you subscribe? Like, what would you like to see from PHP Architect that would make you subscribe to the magazine? Not that we get a cut of that or anything. In fact, we get nothing for even doing the podcast. We get some free advertisement, but like John and I were talking about, we never even asked for that. But as we're having this conversation, I'm like, well, you know what? We have some pull here. And I reached out to the editor of PHP Architect, Oscar. I'm like, hey, this conversation's happening in our Discord. If you're interested, maybe join in and talk. And sure enough, the editor-in-chief of PHP Architect, Oscar, joins our Discord and jumps into the conversation. Then I got accused of selling people out. It's like, oh yeah, okay, make us look bad.
No. You gotta flex helpful when you can.
So yeah, that was kind of cool. I don't know if he's gonna stay in there or not, but yeah, Oscar that was. Okay, so we've talked about a bad coding security thing. And if you're curious into what the query was, I do have it. I do have my Twitter stream about the topic in the show notes, but you can also go to my Twitter account, Shocum, SHOCM, and see it if you can't wait until the show notes come out. We're not going to talk about business models.
No, I've got an article here called "When Good Code Goes Bad."
Okay.
And there was an issue a few months ago where a NPM project was found to be squatting on typos and distributing malicious code by people who installed it. And it turned out that there were a bunch of packages on NPM that were being listed by this person, and they were all malicious. Last week, Python, the Python, what's it called? PIM?
Pip.
Pip. Oh, PyPy.
Yeah.
PyPI is the repository for Python packages, and so pip install goes there by default. And somebody created a package called Colorama that was a duplicate of a package called Colorama, except that it had some VB code in it that would take any Bitcoin addresses it found in a clipboard and change the clipboard to a different Bitcoin address. Yeah, so not good. The legitimate package, COLORAMA, and the illegitimate package was COLOURAMA, the British spelling of color. And the question is starting to arise, how do these repositories, PyPy listing almost 160,000 projects, how do they make sure that there isn't malicious code, even in open source code, when somebody can typo squat a project and start stealing money from people?
Same thing with Packagist and Composer, right? How do we stop it in our industry?
Exactly. All of these sort of package repositories that have become popular over the last year and a half or so are vulnerable to typo squatting or illegitimate code being committed. There are projects out there that scrape packages to look for malicious code. I think Brutus is the one for PyPy. Virtus.
But still, all those packages can't find everything, and people are always going to come up with new ways around it. It's so hard to truly track. Yeah. Hence, Apple and doing their whole, you have to jump through hoops to get listed in their app store.
Right, and with the open source community, there's really not a lot of hoops to jump through. But even in Apple's case, they can make you jump through hoops, but it's they don't catch most things that are malicious. They just know where you live, so when they catch it, they catch you. But there was a flashlight app for iPhone that unlocked free Wi-Fi sharing to other devices, and that's the kind of thing that slips through most often, because that's not really breaking any laws, it's just breaking a terms of service. I've discussed this with other people at DiegoDev in the past, and I think that signing projects is one solution. Having to verify certificates, having every updated version signed by a known maintainer, that kind of thing is one of the possible solutions. The recommendation, I got this article from Hackaday. Their recommendation is just check the stars on the project, check the forks, make sure that there's more than one.
It's not bad. But I mean, but a legitimate project wouldn't always have that, so it makes it harder. It's just something to look for.
This has always been an issue in the open source community, this sort of thing. So yeah, doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. Is that your doom and gloom? Did you sneak doom and gloom in?
What? What?
No. No. That was doom. I definitely felt that was doom and gloom. Doom and gloom there. Do we care that?
Do you guys audit your libraries? Do you guys check for?
Dude, we're moving on. Come on.
Oh.
Do we care that Laravel hired their second employee?
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay. All right.
Because of what he does.
You got to veto a story. Why can't I?
Because this literally addresses something that you and Eric have brought up in the past.
Oh. Okay. You win.
His name is Dries Vince, and his official title is Open Source Liaison.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which
I do believe we mentioned that.
I believe we've mentioned that in the past. According to the article, written by Taylor. This means his primary focus is on the open source aspects of Laravel, including all of its open source repositories. I'm sure he will work on other projects within the Laravel world, such as Forge, Spark, or Nova, but for now, I'm glad to have someone dedicated fully to making sure our open source repositories stay healthy. The last paragraph, I was a little off-put by.
So, what I thought was interesting, do you want to talk about the last paragraph?
I'll read the last paragraph. How's that? And then we'll go from there. Of course, I'm still 100% responsible for managing all pull requests across the Laravel organization, while Mohammed has been focusing on Forge, Envoy, or Spark, and R&D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I think I don't have a problem with that. I think that's him just saying, hey, I still have ownership.
The buck stops here.
Yeah. What I do have a concern of is in this entire article, community is mentioned once. Dryas has been a part of the Laravel community for a very long time, but it doesn't say anything about his role being to help the community. It's about
build community.
Right. It's about keeping projects healthy.
Right. I'm like, come on, man. You're really missing the point here. So I don't know if they're going to make that part of his role, and they just didn't, because Taylor really seems to have struggle getting his head around what community is and how important it is to the Laravel ecosystem. But I don't know. I hope this guy has some sort of role in maybe trying to do some damage.
I don't think he
control.
Does see it, because he gets so many people coming out to like Laracons, and I assume he feels like a rock star when he's there.
I know I would.
Yeah.
But see, I suffer from inferiority complex, or I'm sorry, imposter syndrome. Well, both. We'll just call it both. But I think that I don't think Taylor has any form of imposter syndrome whatsoever. So,
yeah. So I was disappointed to see that. I'm like, when I first read it, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I read it again. I'm like, well, wait a minute. He's not really mentioning like anything about the community. So I don't know. I know I get hung up on the whole community aspect of it.
Get him on the pod. Get him on the Architect podcast. Not on this one. We don't want to get him fired.
I reached out to Larachat guys and said, hey, you need to see about getting this guy on the Larachat podcast. So I think they were
absolutely.
I think they were going to reach out to him and see if he would be willing to come on in. I mean, really, if his role was to help the Laravel community, that would be an example of where it would be like a no-brainer. Yes, of course I'll be there. You know, Larachat Live isn't some random you've only done 2 shows sort of thing. You're an established part of the Laravel community. Of course I'll come on and talk to you guys and tell you what my role is and explain things.
Yeah, as long as Eric isn't there.
As long as that's right.
Hey,
so
Eric,
we've got a lot of tech news.
Eric,
I don't know how much of it we want to cover.
You know what's cooler than $1 billion?
Well, $33 billion.
$33 billion.
I can't even get my head around that number. You know what's even weirder? The rebel of the rebel of technology, the people who literally came in a cloak in a fedora and shook up the industry. Well, now they're part of Big Brother. They're wearing the Big Blue. They're wearing the shirt and tie now. They've hung up their fedoras and they have a shirt and tie. Did you hear about this, John?
I have.
Red Hat.
Now, before we get into it, I want to read you guys a list of all of the open source projects that IBM has acquired that are still considered healthy and operating.
Okay. I think that's important. That's probably very important. So have at it.
He's already read it.
I just did. I read the whole thing.
Okay.
There's not a single open source project that IBM has acquired that is considered still alive and active.
Well, I mean, IBM has got such a well-established name in the open source community. Oh no, wait a minute, that was Red Hat.
That was Red Hat.
Red Hat.
No, you're thinking of the other one.
Good, yeah, right.
And didn't Red Hat just buy somebody big?
They did something with Docker, right? Didn't they purchase something with Docker? Or... I forget. So we actually haven't clarified, but IBM purchased Red Hat for not cheap $33 billion. Billion.
That's just ridiculous. That's a
How?
Big number.
I mean, was Red Hat making that much money? There's a couple things that surprise me. First thing, I'm surprised it wasn't Microsoft, and I'm surprised it wasn't Canonical. I'm surprised Microsoft didn't purchase Red Hat, and I'm surprised it wasn't actually Canonical that was purchased. It was Red Hat, because Canonical seems like it would have been a little bit more achievable. Now I can see Microsoft, or better yet, if you think about it, AWS purchasing Canonical, because how much of the EC2 instances are Ubuntu machines? I mean, that would make a ton of sense. But there are two companies I always had in the back of my mind Microsoft was going to purchase. Back in the early 2000s, it was Zen, because Zen seemed to be doing a lot of work to get their Zen server to run on the Microsoft platform, and Microsoft seemed to have been promoting it. And I said, man, I think they're positioning Zen to buy them. And then Red Hat was the second one. I'm like, why doesn't Microsoft just buy Red Hat? And I thought this a long time back when Red Hat was nowhere near the steam that they had now, but it was clear that they were the forerunners of, at the time, the server market and even the Linux desktop market. I'm like, Microsoft can easily swoop in and buy Red Hat at this point. And they never did. And I always thought that was like really odd. So when I heard Red Hat got purchased, I'm like, holy crap, Microsoft purchased Red Hat. They're doing all this open source stuff. They bought GitHub. They bought Red Hat. Then I find out it was IBM. And this is how weird the time is that we live in. I actually wanted it to be Microsoft. Like, I found out it was IBM. I'm like, holy shit, that's awful. It should have been it should have been Microsoft. You know, it's like Microsoft has changed their game so much. It's like I wanted Microsoft to buy Red Hat.
Just in case this podcast didn't get enough hate from people, that's going to be the opener for this episode. Yeah, there's a lot of upset people about IBM acquiring Red Hat, because IBM has a not just a less than stellar, but a terrible reputation with open source software.
But you would have said that about Microsoft a few years back too, and they've turned around.
True, yeah.
But Microsoft hasn't acquired any open source companies as of late, have they?
GitHub's
closed source.
Yeah, that's not open.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
They promote open source projects, but yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you think the open source aspect of Red Hat is dead, or is the game plan to keep it going? And what is this just IBM's way of saying, okay, you know, we've spent a lot of time on Watson and these other things, but the cloud is getting away from us. We need to re-engage with the cloud, and Red Hat will just buy Red Hat.
The cloud has gotten away from everybody. That's the thing that stuns me.
Except AWS.
Except Amazon. Yeah. Amazon invented cloud computing, as far as I'm concerned, as a commercial product. And everyone is trying to catch up. We had a discussion this week about DigitalOcean trying to catch up with AWS providing cloud computing services. But yeah, everyone is behind the game compared to Amazon. If IBM is trying to position themselves to compete with Amazon, that's great. Leverage the tools that you're getting from Red Hat, but don't think that you're going to compete on some level that isn't already being fought for by many other companies right now.
No, I think, I mean, IBM clearly enterprise, and I think they're seeing too much of their business slip away to the Amazons, where they have to get some skin in the game. I don't think they're looking to become bigger than Amazon, or even really looking to compete with Amazon. They're just looking to stop the loss that Amazon is causing them in the cloud industry.
Yeah. Now, and this goes back to what we talked about a few episodes ago about how acquisitions like this work, is that they're getting Red Hat's client base, and Red Hat is in the black. They're making money. They're not hurting at all. Getting bought for $33 billion is another sign of how successful Red Hat has been recently. The day after the announcement, Red Hat's stock price, because they're listed, went up 45%.
And did you hear, I don't know the exact numbers, but the IBM purchase had them buying the stock at like $190, and at the time the stock was only at like 120 or 130. I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean, it seemed to me, reading it, that IBM wasn't trying to undercut Red Hat. Like, this was a really good intention buyout of, hey, no, we really want to buy you. It's that important to us.
Yeah, and I think that in a case like this, there's nothing malicious about it. You're buying a successful company for the purpose of building on that success. The way companies like IBM stay in business is by moving around their business interests to companies like Lenovo, divesting and investing back and forth and reading the market. So it could be very possible that IBM shifts wholly to a more open sourced market that is currently served by Red Hat, support based. I mean, that's already been their model since they sold off their hardware division a while back, is to provide these support based services. We'll see where it moves from here. But I don't have the dire prospectus that it seems like a lot of the internet has about the whole thing.
Well, I guess time will tell. Time will tell. One of the topics we missed, kind of along the same lines, is, again, talking about Microsoft and talking about how they're embracing open source. They've released a whole slew of their formerly proprietary code base to the Open Source Initiative Network. And I've heard some negative feedback from this. This happened a while back. I don't even remember when this story broke. But we've had a few stories since then. I mean, we've had a couple of episodes since this broke. So it looks like I added the card on October 29th, and I know it broke probably a week or two before then. So the article was from October 10th. Microsoft further commits to open source, releases 2/3 of its patents to Open Source Initiative Network. And I guess this is a network that people subscribe to. And one of the blowbacks I heard was that Microsoft is being a little snotty about how it's released, and making sure that the people on the Open Source Initiative Network are the ones using it, and it's not just general kind of open source, like out to the public sort of thing. But I don't know. I've never used the Open Source Initiative Network. I'm not even sure what it is, but apparently it's something that you have to subscribe to, and I don't know all the caveats about it. But it's not like, basically what it is, what I'm trying to explain is that Microsoft didn't just put this stuff on GitHub and say, okay, all this is open source. It's open source with some restrictions, with some caveats to it. And one of those caveats is you've got to go through this Open Source Initiative or I keep saying initiative, invention network.
I wasn't gonna correct you on that one. I was just gonna let you roll with it.
I keep, that's me thinking I know what I'm talking about from time to time.
And this is a patent network, so this isn't actually even code. This is just access to patents that are considered up for trade on the network.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, again, Microsoft, open source, I don't know. It's a weird world we live in now. Weird world.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a ton of faith in this open invention network thing. It's designed to protect companies' patents.
Mm-hmm.
It's not designed to give it to the world. So, not my favorite thing. But
yeah, like I said, I mean, it's and there's been some blowback on it, but I don't know.
We've had some project death in the community.
What do you mean?
Project? What do you mean?
Well, Zend.
Oh yeah.
There's open source worth $33 billion, and then there's open source that's just sort of being let go.
Well, we talked about the framework. Oh, we talked about the frameworks. Did we talk about the frameworks last week? I think we did.
Oh, this is brand spanking new.
No, it's not brand spanking new. It's been around for a while.
I'm pretty sure we talked about it last week.
Yeah. I know we talked about it on the PHP Arch podcast.
Oh, damn it, we did.
But yeah. But what I did learn is, and I didn't even think about this, we were so busy talking about the Zen frameworks and what direction those were heading in. We didn't it totally escaped me. And again, I think it's just a sign of the times, but the Zen IDE, which at one moment in its history was the leading PHP IDE editor to use, that's something else that they've abandoned.
I didn't know they had one.
Oh yeah, they have one. It tied into their Zen server, and it was based off of the Eclipse. It was based off Eclipse, and it was decent for its time.
There's your problem.
It got overshadowed by PHP Storm, and it was left in the dust after that. But that's gone. There was another Zen product that I had forgotten about. I'm like, oh yeah, shoot. But yeah, Zen is just now Zen server, which really, like, there's that much of a market for Zen server where that's your play? You're going to focus on Zen server?
I think in the enterprise it's huge, but I don't know. I've never tried it.
Yeah, and I have, and you're right. I did. It was my in the enterprise to get PHP in the enterprise, and not only to get PHP in the enterprise, but get a PHP distribution that can be managed and controlled, and Zen server did do that. So I don't know. Maybe that is a big enough market for them. I struggle to believe it, but I guess it's possible.
The other product, were you thinking ZenGuard?
ZenGuard, that's it. Yes. Good call, John. Yes.
Well, I cheated. I have the article open in front of me.
throw the article in Trello so we can have it on the show notes, please.
It's already there.
Okay.
Just over.
Yeah. So that was yeah. Yeah, so there's that. Do we want to discuss?
Ethics?
I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Zen, Thomas, since you brought it up?
No, I forgot we talked about it last week.
Oh, no worries. Do we want to talk about Google?
I edited the episode yesterday. Yeah, we talked about ethics a couple weeks ago, and
I'm sorry, Thomas, I said Google.
Yeah.
I don't understand ethics in Google. What are you talking about? What?
Well, there's been an employee walkout.
What?
Yeah,
Your acting skills are on point tonight, Eric.
I mean, I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
There's been a mass walkout because of Google's responses to sexual harassment claims, and
because they fired somebody over sexual harassment, and everybody felt that he was wrongly terminated, and all walked out. Is that what happened?
No, you're thinking of the Supreme Court.
Oh,
wait, no, nope, that didn't happen either.
No.
I
part of my story is correct. No, part of my story is correct. They were upset about somebody who was let go over sexual harassment. They were just upset
with
how well this guy was compensated. Yes.
What was it? 90 million? It was some crazy number.
No, it couldn't have been 90 million. Was it? I thought it was like 90,000. Was it 90 million?
90,000.
It was millions. It was either 60 or 90 million.
Could not have been. Can't possibly be that much money.
$90 million.
$90 million.
This dude, fire me for $90 million. Fire me, John. You can fire me right now for $90 million.
For
$1. I'll fire you for less than that if you can't take it.
So I can name that song in one note.
50 million, John. Fire me for $50 million.
Yeah,
I'll allow it.
This golden parachute thing is a real fucker. Because it seems like everyone who does something horrendous but has a C in front of their title gets a lot of money for leaving.
It's crazy, right?
It really is. Because if I do something horrendous, I'm just it's unceremonious.
We say horrendous. Do you know I don't know the particulars of what caused him to be let go. So I mean, was it horrendous or not that it bears that much difference, but
you're walking a fine line there.
Well, I'm not just talking about Google. I'm talking about many companies that have had to deal with firing people for doing something terrible and paying them millions of dollars to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, there was a guy who notoriously lied to Radio Shack, became the CEO, and then ended up getting fired for $25 million. He had no experience previously to being a CEO. He just straight up lied to him.
Mm-hmm.
How's that company doing nowadays? Radio Shack, are they still good?
Perfect.
I think that Raspberry Pi lady owns them now. Right?
They got by Adafruit. They got bought by $5 computer maker.
It's just some certificates. I saw one of their
stores like 5 years ago.
What's that?
Good. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. Let's go. Oh. I said I was just in one of their stores like 5 years ago.
Well, this isn't.
I just saw a YouTube of the Adafruit founder, and you're the person you like to. You actually got me hooked on, Thomas. That sexy cyborg. She went.
don't pin me with that.
Okay, all right. But she went to Adafruit. I like her. I think she's good. But she went to Adafruit, and they're walking through the warehouse and doing all the geek stuff. And like off in a corner was the certificate of ownership of Radio Shack. Just like it was framed, but it was just like laying down on the floor in the corner somewhere. I'll try to find that and put the video in the show notes.
This isn't the only big walkout, though. Amazon is being threatened with a mass employee walkout over two things, which is treatment of employees and the sales of facial recognition software, as well as Google, who is looking at selling facial recognition software to the military. And people are upset about this. And it's funny to me because this is an area where developers are very upset and everyone else is kind of like, I don't understand. Developers aren't upset that facial recognition software exists and is being used, developers are upset that there are inherent flaws in facial recognition software that, as a Freudian slip there, it ends up being racial recognition. It ends up identifying people incorrectly based on racial bias lines. And there's a lot of ethical dilemmas going on in Silicon Valley right now.
John, well, Thomas, I think you are too. We both have the Echo devices in our house, right?
Yes, and that's the word mine responds to, so thanks.
Well, I'm in your headphones, so... Are yours getting harder of hearing? I swear my devices are getting harder of hearing. Like they're growing old.
Oh, yeah.
Really? It's not just me?
Mine's always been bad. If the volume is up above a certain amount, then you have to turn the dial on the top of it by hand. There's no amount of yelling that works. And my morning alarm specifically does not understand me until the 5th or 6th try.
you wait for the break in the alarm. Yeah. Turn off. Like when the alarm goes off, it should just be in listen mode at that point. You shouldn't have to trigger it. Like when the alarm's going off, it should just be listening for you to say stop.
Or anything. Just say to acknowledge that you're awake. It's like trying to stop a baby from crying by crying at it while it breathes for air. You can't. But yes, it is effective.
All right, I think, I think we packed a lot of information into the show, and we're at a good point here. But I do want to talk about my daughter's mayoral campaign again, if you guys don't mind. Do you guys have an issue with that?
Not at all.
No, not at all.
So
I saw her speech. I saw her interviewed on TV.
Right. We had a whole media blitz last week. We talked about her a little bit last week. For those who didn't catch the show, my daughter is running for mayor of the city we live in, which is Poway, California. She's 20 years old, has no political experience or anything, and she did it because she felt like the youth wasn't being represented, and there was nobody there. There are a bunch of old white guys running for mayor, and there was nobody there representing the youth and some of the issues and concerns that the youth have. And so she's like, well, nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to represent me. I'm going to represent me. And so she decided to go ahead and run. I talked about how proud I was of her and everything, but last week just totally flipped my mind. I mean, not my mind. Like, I'm not like not supporting her now, but how much she has gone through for her campaign now. She's been interviewed on a couple news networks, which was cool. I mean, we last Saturday I drove her to one of the stations and they had a whole sit down thing. What I thought was really interesting was one of the news people came out to Poway to interview her. And then after they interviewed her, they interviewed the current mayor who took credit for her running. It was talking about...
she gave him credit. He didn't take credit.
Well, so she says she felt she was challenged by him. And he spins it as he inspired her. So there's a little play on words there. She was challenged because she wasn't happy with the job he was doing and felt that she could do a better job. He's more of like, no, I inspired her to do this. It's like, no, you didn't. Don't try to be the good guy in this thing. You're not inspiring.
I watched the interview. That's how I took it.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I even told her.
No, the way she said it. When asked, she was like, the current mayor came in and said, if you're not being represented, you should run. So I took that as an uplifting thing. Like he was trying to be inspiring for people to get out there and run.
And actually what she had said, and it was funny because I pointed it out to her because she's naive about the whole spin doctor aspect of politics. And I even told her, I'm like, do you understand what happened here? He's taking credit for what he did, and he's making it look like, he was a good force in this. Like, you got to make sure when you explain this, you explain it correctly. So if you watch the other news interview, first thing I heard her say, they're talking before the camera starts, and he goes, "So I hear the current mayor inspired you to do this." And she goes, "No, it wasn't inspiration. It was a challenge." And she was more clear in the second interview, where she said she's explaining the concerns that she has in Poway. She goes, we have a lot of young homeless people in Poway, and the mayor says that's not the city's responsibility to take care of it, to take care of that sort of thing. And she goes, well, of course it is. He goes, it is not. And if you feel like it is, you run for mayor and change it. That's how that conversation went down. And she was much clearer about that in the second interview. And it's funny because I was like, had to explain to her, I'm like, listen, you've got to make sure you clarify that, because he'll continue to spin it like he's done this good thing for young people. But I thought it was interesting that he even felt like I don't know if the news organization reached out to him or what happened, but I thought it said a lot to Emily.
That's standard practice for journalism, though, is that you have to get both sides.
And again, I was explaining to Emily that she should take it as a compliment that he felt that she was a significant enough of a force in the race where he came out and did the interview. Like, he was part of that interview. He didn't just say, yeah, there's a little girl. I'm not going to spend my day and come out there and talk to you guys. Just interview her. He came out, he went to the location and was part of it. So I told her, I'm like, hey, that's a compliment. It means he's taking you seriously now. Like, this isn't a joke to him anymore. He really thinks that you're having some sort of impact, and he wants to be involved in it. So anyways, long story short, elections are next week, I believe. Yep. So it's going to be an interesting week in the Johnson household. I'll let you guys know. As a matter of fact, I think it's on the 4th.
The 6th.
6th.
Yeah. So it's on the 6th. So we should actually have some news by Thursday. So next Thursday, we'll see. We may be busy moving into the mayor's office.
Doesn't happen.
If I did do a little timeline in Twitter. If anybody's interested, it'll be in the show notes. You can kind of see some of the stuff. But it's been fun. Oh, and the big news, I didn't even tell you guys, the really cool stuff is she got called last week by the Young Democratic Party or something or another. They had her go to a rally and speak, which was, first thing, mind-blowing. I mean, there were probably 1,000 or so people there, maybe more, and she got on stage and spoke, and you could tell she was moved, because she said the statement of something along the lines of, I realized nobody was going to represent me, so I was going to have to represent myself. And just people just went ape shit. It was like, wah! But a lot of big Democratic politicians were there talking, and of course the highlight of the evening was Bernie Sanders was there, and he showed up and was speaking as well. So that was such a cool experience for her. I was so happy she got to be a part of that.
I think we did get a chance to talk about it last week, because I thought it said that she asked my permission to be able to go speak at this thing.
Yes. Yeah. No, we did. It was the last half hour of the episode. But you do make me want to hear more parents explaining their children's run for political office.
It's been an experience, and she seems hooked on it now. I mean, I don't know if she's kind of swept up in it or not, but I mean, she's already planning on her next move, whether she wins or whether she loses. She's figuring out what her next moves are going to be, and I told her, I'm like, it's a tough thing she's getting involved with, but it's good that people like her get involved, because you need good people You need good people in politics, and I think she's one of the good ones. So we'll see. I do want to put John on the spot before we go.
Oh, that's my favorite. That's my favorite part of the podcast. John on the spot.
We're running a little long here, but John, I need you to take a deep breath. Try to find a nice center and relax.
Check your blood pressure.
What are we doing about Wave PHP? Because, man, I'm seeing a lot of these community conferences starting to announce their 2019 conference dates. I'm putting you on the spot, buddy.
I'm Tom Rideout.
I'm John Congdon. Stay tuned.
All right, stay tuned. It is Wave PHP 2019 question mark. There's our title. There's our title for this podcast. Wave PHP 2019 question mark.
Should we bring up where we're going to be in 2 weeks?
You're going to be at PHP World.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Why do I know that and you don't? I'm not going.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm at week to week. I just look at my to-do list and see where I'm supposed to be. Yes.
I'm supposed to be on an airplane. Yeah, so
and check it out.
Come check us out there.
Yeah, check it out. I just got in a bunch of PHP stickers, a new batch. So if you see us at PHP World and you want some PHP Ugly stickers, let us know. We're also going to have some PHP podcasts, the PHP Architect podcast stickers as well. Supposedly, I'm not ordering those. PHP Architect is taking care of that, but we should have stickers to hand out. So don't hesitate to come up to me and ask me for a couple stickers.
Yeah, definitely don't come up to me. Just go up to Eric.
John's heart couldn't handle more strangers.
yeah. If you approach John, do it very slowly and calmly, like a wild animal in the out in nature. It's like don't just run up on him.
Avoid bubble wrap. Don't step on it or anything like that.
Don't startle John. Nobody startle John.
Not that delicate. I got cleared. I'm playing Ultimate Frisbee again. Started this week. Loving life again. I'm happy. Things are good. So don't worry about me.
Well, I'm gonna.
Okay.
So there.
All right. That's a good place to end it.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I have a small post podcast conversation for our Patreon people who want to listen in on it.
Okay. Well, that's not Patreon, right? I mean, like anybody can stay on and listen.
Well, I was thinking since you're editing this week, you could cut that and release it just for the Patreon list.
And release the Patreon? Patreon,
yeah.
This is the Patreon people who are signing up Patreon, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That is a huge deal.
I'm really being sincere and honest. It's been really moving to see that. I totally appreciate it. Thanks.
I know it smells like whiskey, but it's actually sincerity.
Okay, I think that's going to be it. We're going to wrap it up.
All right.
I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it
ugly. That's our best keep it ugly yet. So I don't want to stop recording yet, just in case we want to release like a.
Okay, keep recording. Do we want to stop broadcasting, or do we want to share?
No,
we'll keep doing the broadcasting too.
That's what he was saying. That's what he was talking about. Then it's not Patreon only. It's
but
everyone that watches on YouTube.
Well, yeah, all 20 people who are already Patreons, probably.
Actually, we have I think a couple hundred people that watch our video. No, I think maybe I'm thinking of LaraChat.
No, I looked at the numbers. You're thinking of LaraChat. People don't listen to us at 12 o'clock at night.
No, but I'm saying a lot more people. No, we do. We get let's see, we're at 30. Yeah, about 30 people actually come back and listen to the show. Which even that surprises me. Who come back and watch the YouTube stream.
Yeah.
So we have 4 or 5 people watching us live now, but quite a few people come back later and watch it.
So I've noticed something interesting, and it's not really relevant to the podcast, so I didn't want to bring it up in the podcast, but I wanted to bring it up either before or after. Do you guys watch Stranger Things?
No,
just the first season I did. I hadn't gotten the second one.
Second one's good.
Yeah, the wife and kids watch it, but I haven't seen it.
Do you watch Sabrina, the new Sabrina show?
No.
I've noticed something that's happening in movies and TV, which is things are taking place in a really, really ambiguous time period.
What do you mean?
I was watching Sabrina, and aesthetically, the show is taking place in the 50s and 60s. But the language of it, the politics of it, is all current day. And there's only really one element that's missing that makes it solidly in the 50s, which is technology. And I've noticed that movies and TV shows are trying to figure out how to deal with technology, basically destroying the modern storytelling tropes. So in almost any horror movie now, if you have a cell phone, the story's over. Right? And so there's all of these shows that are coming up with ways of eliminating cell phones and computers on a very superficial level, but then maintaining current politics, mindsets, and that kind of stuff. Do you guys ever see Legion?
Nope.
I don't watch a lot of TV.
See, I was really hoping you guys were in some way involved in pop culture.
No.
Nope.
I watch reruns of The Office. That's about it right now.
So in other words, the conversation is like really like.
Yeah. No. Well, no.
Office and IT crowd are about my speed.
So what I found really interesting is that horror movies started to say, we don't have reception here in the mountains. And that kind of worked for horror movies. But then TV shows started to say, well, it's the 30s, so we just don't have a cell phone. But we still say, hey, brah, what's up? And we're starting to see a lot of TV shows that are, the art direction is in the 50s, but the writing is completely modern.
Well, I think that's... I mean, they have to make it relevant to the people watching the show today. I think very few shows, I mean, Mad Men may be one of the exceptions, who can kind of spend that effort to have the dialect and everything of the era and still make the show interesting.
But see, that's why I brought up Sabrina's, because I've been watching it. The first few episodes, everyone's talking on a rotary phone.
Maybe you shouldn't be watching these shows. That just seems like a weird show for you to be watching.
It's a great show. Although they're getting sued by the Satanic Temple now. Well, they did something stupid. They used copyrighted artwork that belongs to the Satanic Temple in their show, and it got them in trouble. But anyways, they start using cell phones later episodes of the show. But by the time they start using cell phones, you've forgotten about the immediacy of a cell phone. You forgot about the culture of cell phone usage, that it's always in your hand. So they're just using it like it's a wired handset. And because it took them 6 episodes to get to that point, you don't put the connection together that this thing is a smartphone and that the internet exists in this world. So they're intentionally creating this really blurry line. I wish you guys had any involvement in pop culture at all.
Yeah,
nope.
Yeah. This is not interesting at all.
It's late and ready for bed.
All right.
I wanted to unsubscribe to our Patreon now, just at the threat of putting this on there. But... Hey, John, did you show Thomas what I gave you today?
No, it's out in the car, so I can't. I'll show him next week.
I'm glad I meant enough to you to keep it in the car. That's great.
I'm sorry. It ended up in the back seat with.
All right, now there we go. All right,
I don't think a used condom is a real keepsake.
Stop recording. Oh, dude! All right, stop recording because I want to yell at you.
Me?
Yeah. I don't know if John heard this. I'll keep the stream going for Discord fans or Discord listeners. Dude, you're a dick. I want you to know that. Everybody says I'm a dick. You're a fucking asshole, Thomas.
Well, yeah, I'm just better at it than you are.
So I don't know who caught this, and I caught it when you said it, and I let it go because I know people jump on my ass about giving you a hard time. And then I listened to it again because I listened to the podcast again. And when I heard that it made the cut, like you didn't edit it out, I'm like, you fucking asshole.
What?
We were talking about, and I can't remember the context now, but we were talking about getting, that's what it was. Talking about DNA evidence and how easy it is to plant DNA evidence. I said, I could easily get John's DNA evidence, by going to his keyboard, turning it upside down, and getting a bunch of skin cells. And do you remember what you said?
Yeah, you could just scrape the inside of his cheek for your DNA.
No, you said I could scrape the inside of my cheek for his DNA, you fucking dick.
Why is that that was hilarious.
Are you saying... Was it a blowjob joke? What the hell are you saying?
No,
why would I have
joke.
his DNA in my mouth?
It was a making out
You're
joke.
You're an asshole, man. And you left it in the show, you dick.
I leave everything in the show except
I
for
intentionally didn't give you a hard time about it on the show because I'm like, no, I'm not going to drag that out because I'm sure he'll edit that out because you kind of said it in the background.
I don't edit anything out.
I noticed this, you asshole.
I'm not an asshole. I love you guys.
I don't saying that overstepped about. I'm firing you for $5. $5 is all you're getting.
Well, you have to edit this week anyways.
All right.
Do
Discord
what you
people,
will.
you got a little of the late night PHP outlook this week. So I hope you appreciate it. Thank you for being on Discord. Thank you for listening to the show.
Am I really the asshole? I thought that was a fun joke. We've talked about the two of you being married in the past. That crosses a legal boundary.
that just had too many visual implications to it.
What's wrong with me? That's so bad.
He's a handsome man.
I take offense that you took offense.
That I would have your DNA inside my mouth. But
you're saying it as if it's a really bad thing. Like
it is. It's a very bad thing. Let's be clear.
I know plenty of gentlemen who would be proud to swap DNA with John Condon.
I'm stopping broadcasting. This is going to a bad place very quickly. Thank you, Discord. Appreciate you.
Bye.